Everybody, look what I have here. This is phenomenal. It's the Plug in America award that we picked up last night for Transport Evolved. I know that it has my name on it, but really it's for everybody on the team, and it's a real honor to have it. It's a really fantastic award, so thank you to Plug in America for letting us have the honor of getting that award last night. I'm going to show you what it does because it's really fun. It does this little lighty up thing when you plug it in. So it's a standard plug. You plug it in, and look, I don't know if you can see it in the light, but the plug changes color. So thank you to everybody who nominated us, because lots of people lots of people nominated us. I'm tired, I can't speak correctly. So it is day 3 of the long distance road trip for us. We have driven, I say we, I suppose I've got used to saying we. It's not the royal we at this point. I have driven from Portland, Oregon to LA, and now I'm driving back. I am driving back from LA to Sacramento today, and then tomorrow I drive to Portland from Sacramento. With any luck, I'll be back in Portland by Thursday evening so that I can film on Friday, so you all get your usual 10 news roundup. And today has been a nice relaxing day. I spent a couple of hours editing a video this morning at the Airbnb I was staying at in the Simi Valley, and tonight I'll probably do a bit of filming maybe and some editing, and then I'll hit the road really early tomorrow morning because we've got 600 miles to do tomorrow. It's the long day. After my last video, says Anonymous Freak, hello, I lamented the lack of full CCS infrastructure. Let me see what else he just said, because I missed that. I lamented the lack of full CCS infrastructure, then looked at PlugShare and see that lots of new ones have come online in the last few months. It is very true. The infrastructure for CCS has really improved, which is why this trip is very cool. And actually I realized earlier on that one of the CCS charging stations I stopped at was not fully commissioned, yet it gave me power. So thanks to ChargePoint for that one. Making sure I stay hydrated, it's very important. It was great to have the award last night, great to see everybody at the award ceremony, got to see a great number of people, got to meet some really fantastic inspirational people, some new folks that I've just met, and some old friends. The wonderful Chelsea Sexton was also a recipient of one of these. Sorry, there was a big truck just went past. And so it was really great to see everybody. In case you're wondering, I'm sitting in the back of the Bolt because the last video I did, people complained about the high-pitched whining of the charging stations, and I don't want that to happen again. So I am sitting further away from the charging station while also being in the shade, because it's about 90 degrees out here right now. For those who are interested, I am 110 miles south of Sacramento on the I-5 at a 76 fueling station, I think it is, K76. Fueling station, where there are 3 rapid charging stations and 2 regular low-speed charging units. So enough here definitely for me to charge. And today I've been taking it a lot more steadily than I have in previous days, because I don't have to be anywhere for a particular time. So I've been doing a bit of work on the road, been listening to things. This trip's been really good so far. Got some bad news earlier about our studio. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that. We want to make some modifications to our studio, but we've got to pay $3,000 in order to do that. So I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We'll see. We'll see. These things will happen or they will not. But it would be a shame if our studio, after us originally saying, hey, we want to do this to our studio, and then them going, yeah, that should be fine, and then going pay us does not make me happy, because now we would either have to break a contract, be content with just having Hollywood flats, which is probably what we're going to have to do, or coming up with some other solution, which is frustrating. And someone's offered us a charging station as well, which we may not be able to do now either, because of the landlord's basically not playing ball. So the road trip down so far has been really good. I've not been driving particularly steadily. I've been driving at the speed limit with the AC on. The car has been behaving itself. Right now I'm looking over at the dashboard and it says it's got 19 minutes to 80% full, and we've currently got 115 miles of range, which is actually more than we need to get to Sacramento. But I'm actually gonna talk to you guys, wait until we get to 80%, and then we'll go from there. And hopefully this will be my last rapid charge of the day. Excuse me. It'll be my last rapid charge of the day on the road. I am actually going to try and squeeze another rapid charge in tonight so I can leave tomorrow morning with a fully charged battery pack. But I'm fairly close to my evening destination. Gonna get an early night and gonna get an early start again tomorrow because I want to be back to the cold, wet weather of Portland. The summer is nice, but it's September. It shouldn't be 28, 29 degrees Celsius, which is what it is here right now. So a couple of people were commenting about the road trip and how we should have made the road trip in a Tesla. Good for you. I really like driving this car. This car suits my needs. So thank you for your concern, but your concern is unwarranted. The fact that I was able to do 1,000 miles in 2 days, I think, is more than most people would want to do in a car anyway. So the fact that I did it on my own in 2 days, I think shows that the car is very robust and does everything I've needed it to. I was also able to make an appointment on the second day without being late, which is also something that, 10 years ago, I didn't think that it wasn't possible 10 years ago with any electric car to go on a long distance trip and know that you were going to make an appointment. And back in those days, yeah, sometimes I did have to cancel appointments, which sucked. So to be able to get there, to be able to trust in the reliability of the network, and to be able to just pull up and plug in and not have to worry about RFID cards or anything like that has been it's a really nice experience. And I would say it's on par with a Tesla experience in a lot of ways. So I've been very, very pleased with how mature some of these charging stations have become. So if you've got questions for me about the charging networks, now is the time to ask me, because I'm effectively a captive audience for you guys, because I'm sitting here waiting for my car to charge. There is a video coming later on today talking about some of the cars that we've owned at Transport Evolved, and that'll be over on the main channel. But that's really cool. One of the observations that I have had driving in California is how few cars I've seen that are electric, and it's reinforced how far electric cars have to go before they reach mass market penetration. Yes, if you get into certain parts of LA, you see lots of electric vehicles, but out on the road, you don't see them. I haven't seen more than about a dozen electric cars on I-5. And at these charging stations, these rapid charging stations, I've seen very few other electric vehicles. I've seen Teslas at supercharger stations, but I have seen very few other, mainstream OEM electric models. So I haven't seen, last night in LA, I saw probably about 20 or 30 Bolts. They were all plugged in and charging at the same charging space that I was at LA City Hall. And that was because some of them belonged to the city of LA and some of them belonged to people who were attending last night's award ceremony. But on the freeway, no. At these charging stations, no. And that surprised me, because I was under the impression that electric vehicle charging infrastructure, especially on corridors like the I-5, were becoming oversubscribed, and that we needed to have more of these charging stations go in. Either I'm stopping at the charging stations that nobody else is stopping at, or that's not the case. Or the charging stations that I'm using are ones that people are not wanting to go to because they're too expensive. I mean, I'll admit that the charge point charging stations have been kind of expensive. A lot of people are asking, have we totted up all of the charging station costs yet? No, I haven't. I haven't done that yet. But I would estimate that so far this trip has probably cost me about $50 in electricity. in terms of rapid charging stations. All right, I've got a comment here. Had a fun the spectrum of electrification in traffic for a few days ago. Toyota non-Prius hybrid, followed by, and the comment has vanished because YouTube, followed by, what was it followed by? I think I've never done this before. You'd think I've never done this before, but I have. I clicked on the wrong button. Followed by a Prius plug-in hybrid, followed by a Chevy Volt, then my i3 Rex, then a Leaf, then a Tesla, and that happens a lot in Portland. Anonymous Freak is in Portland, so it does happen quite a lot in Portland. I see more electric cars in Portland than I saw in LA, and that might be because there are fewer people in Portland than there are in LA. But I think there's still a very high number of plug-in cars, and you probably notice them more in the rush hour, and I think that's a good point to make. You probably see more electric cars in the rush hour than you do at other points in the day. But I have been disappointed by the number of electric cars I've seen on the roads of California thus far outside of LA itself. So I did see some in LA, but most of them, as I say, were up and plugging in at charging stations. So far though, the Bolt has handled all of the hills, no problem. It's really nice to have that extra power, and it's reminded me that some of the electric cars that we used to have in the early days were underpowered. You know, like the first generation Nissan Leaf was a little bit underpowered. And I'm a little bit more confident in the 200 horsepower, what's that, 150 kilowatts, that the Bolt has and that other cars are having. And I think these days the power that you're seeing in production electric vehicles is a more sensible figure. I think anything under 100 kilowatts doesn't seem to feel very powerful, and anything below 140 feels slow. EV Convoy, says Lionel James. Creator Generator says ... because the chat has disappeared. I wish there was a way of just making chat stay up. I take a drive most days in Calgary, Alberta. Yay! And each time I travel, at least I see at least one EV, mainly a Tesla. I'd love to come to Calgary. I've never been. I have family in Calgary. For those who don't know, my mum is Canadian, so I do have family in Alberta. And that's a really interesting thing to note as well, because Alberta is, you know, a very it's one of the biggest oil generators, I believe, in Canada is Alberta. And so, you know, I always understood that EVs were a bit slow to take off. So it's good to know that appears to be changing. So that's fantastic news. That really is fantastic news. I'd be interested to hear if there are parts of the world where you live where you're seeing more EVs than perhaps you haven't, but it would be good to see, you know, what happens where you are. Sorry, we just had a message come through. Someone's telling me that the company website is still down. I'm aware of that. We got hacked a couple of weeks ago, and it caused us to spend over $600 in server charges from people hacking our system. The hackers are now out, but it's been a painful month for us as a company. We got hacked. We got threatened because we were saying bad things about Elon Musk, apparently, which I don't believe we were. People said we were saying bad things about Elon Musk and threatened to hack us, and we were then subsequently hacked, and we lost some videos, and it was horrible, and we had a big bill at the end of it. So yes, if you are watching the website and you're saying the website's still not working, I'm aware of it. We just haven't had time to rebuild it yet. So we're trying to figure out how the hackers got in, make sure we can close the back door, and make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's why our website is the way it is right now, and we're sorry for that. We are aware of it. Someone made a comment about Holland. I think it's great to see all these different countries coming online. Holland, they're slowly coming. And Creator Generator says 25% GDP is from big oil in Alberta, and that's my point. Apparently there's a first ever Electrify America charging station going on somewhere in New York State, so that's fantastic. last night, obviously at the Plug in America Awards, it was great to hear about charging stations going in. There was one company that's building some new apartment complexes and multi-family dwellings across a wide spectrum of different price points that are including charging stations as standard for electric vehicles, and I think that's really important and a really transformational experience. I also chatted to some lovely people last night about electric vehicle inequality and the fact that, you know, it's very easy if you're in a median income and above to buy an EV, but if you're if you're not a median income, you're above median income, but if you're kind of your average person on an average salary, electric cars are still beyond your price point, and that is very, very true. People talk about, you know, how I came to own an EV, and I started off by owning really cheap, not very nice electric vehicles and working my way up with the savings from the gasoline that we didn't buy because we were driving electric. I've also been very fortunate. I've been in the right place at the right time to get some good deals on cars. The Chevy Bolt that I'm sitting in right now, I think was 15 or 16,000 off list price because of the incentives that the dealership was willing to offer. This car had been crashed before it was even registered. One of the delivery guys, drove it off, and that caused some problems. Have I heard any news about the Mustang Mach-E? No, I haven't. The Germ says, I have a Volt and a Tesla S. Good, that's good to know. I think the Volt's a fantastic car. I think it's a really good car. Sorry, it's really hot and I'm trying to stay hydrated. I think the Volt is a really important car for a lot of people. CGTN channel YT showed China testing waterproof electric motor for EV. Well, that's good. I mean, electric motors can be waterproof anyway. They can have, you know, they are generally sealed. So it'd be interesting to know quite what that means. My brain's not working fully at the moment. Like I say, long distance. I'm looking into a used Twizy, still too expensive. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But used Twizzies are fantastic fun. An electric boat should be cool. Yes, well, there are electric boats already, of course. I'd love to see an electric amphibious vehicle. Again, they have existed in the past, just not mass production. So that would be fun to see. Apologies if the camera is waving a little bit. I'm holding my phone up against my headrest. So yeah, so sorry about that. So we're facing some big changes at Transport Evolved again, and we're hopefully going to be implementing them in the next couple of months. The studio upgrades, it appears, are not going to happen as quickly as we thought they were going to happen, because we're going to have to spend extra money that we don't have on increasing our studio, our studio deposit. Basically, our landlord wants us to put 3 or 4 months rent into the deposit before they'll approve any proposed changes to our studio. So, which is a bit really, to be honest. Someone was asking, where am I right now? I am currently off of I-5, about 110 miles south of Sacramento in California. So I'm charging up at the moment. I've got 7 minutes until my car reaches 80% state of charge. And I have noticed in these temperatures, the time to 80% is not as accurate as it is further north in Oregon. I find in Oregon, the car is pretty accurate about telling me when it's going to reach 80%. But on this long distance trip in extreme heat or warmer weather, where the car has to put more energy into keeping the batteries cool with the active thermal management, I am noticing that the car does not charge quite as quickly as it said it would. So that's a shame, unfortunately. But, you know, it's telling me I've got 140 miles of range right now, which is more than I need to get back to Sacramento. I'm going to wait until it gets to 80% because I'd just rather have that buffer, and then I can just drive and not worry about driving, and the car will just get me there. When I get to Sacramento, I'll put the car on charge, find somewhere to grab some food, and then call it a night. And tomorrow morning, I'm aiming to be out of my Airbnb by 6, be on the road by 6. and we go from there. I've been really bad about the driving, actually. I haven't felt that driving this distance, I mean, I've done like, 1,400 miles so far in 3 days so far. I haven't really felt that this distance has been a problem for me. 1,300 so far, sorry. When I get to Sacramento, it'll be 1,400, and then by the time I get home tomorrow evening, it'll be 2,000 miles in 4 days. So averaging 500 miles a day, although yesterday and today is 400, tomorrow is going to be 600, and Monday was 600. I haven't really felt like I've been doing a long distance trip. I haven't felt exhaustion like I have in the past. So it's interesting. I bet the trip would not be noticeably longer if you had a Tesla. It doesn't feel, honestly, it doesn't feel like there's any difference really taking this car over a Tesla. I genuinely don't think that this trip would have been any quicker in a Tesla, because the limit is not the car, the limit is me. So there's been a couple of points on the trip where I've stopped for a wee, or a coffee, and I've needed to stop rather than the car has needed to stop. And there's been moments where I've pulled in to go to the loo and there's been a charging station and I've been like, okay, I'll just whack the car on for a bit. So good example of that was the previous place I was coming from. So I left the Tejon Ranch this morning, Tejon Ranch this morning in California. Well, I say this morning, it was about noon that I stopped to charge. It probably went about 1 p.m. when I left. And I was driving north and the car had told me it had like 80 miles of range remaining and I needed to do 70 before getting to here. And I was coming up on the charging station and I'm like, I need to go to the restroom. I could just carry on driving or I could just stop for a few minutes. I literally stopped for 10 minutes and got some extra charging. And that meant that I could then drive here without worrying about range or that range anxiety or anything. And that was a really nice feeling, a really nice way of getting to this point. There's been no point today where I've been in the orange, which has been lovely, because there's a couple of times coming down where I hit orange. And that was mainly because I was working to a schedule. I knew I had to be at a certain point at a certain time. That's not going to be the case from tomorrow. I saw a Chevy Spark from California recently in Calgary. Don't know if they drove it up. What's the range on one of those? 84 miles is the EPA approved range. I have a friend who has one. I would say 75 is a more realistic range for them. And I think probably it was one that was purchased. I would be surprised if it had driven up from California. It's not impossible, but very unlikely. Two things it could have been. It could have been put on the back of an RV trailer, because sometimes RV people have an electric car that they drive around when their RV is parked up. Or it could have been, as someone was saying in the chat, it could have been a petrol version, because there isn't a gasoline petrol version of the Spark. Or it could have been one, I think, that was purchased at auction and then taken up to Calgary and is going to be registered in California. Limiting factor from the car's point of view is the number of kilowatt hours. Well, I have a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack, but my car is really super efficient. I mean, I've been averaging 4 miles per kilowatt hour over this entire trip. At points, it's been as high as 6 miles per kilowatt hour on the flat, as many as, however many stupid coming down hills, but average, all the hills, everything else, 4 miles per kilowatt hour. That includes air conditioning use. That includes me driving at the speed limit. So the car has been rock solid. At the start of the trip, the fuel efficiency was worse because we were driving through heavy rain and it was a bit colder. But the car has been absolutely rock solid thus far. I've been really impressed. I've been really happy with how it's doing. And there haven't been any major issues with it. So there we go. I am coming up on my 80% state of charge. So I'm going to sign off and head on to Sacramento for the evening. I just want to thank everybody for watching the channel. Thank you again for everyone who made this possible. This is the reason I drove down to LA. It's the Voice of the EV Consumer Award for, the Marketing Awareness Award for the 2019 Drive Electric Awards. And I had a lovely time last night. It was wonderful seeing everybody. I know my name is on the award, but it really isn't me. It's everybody who watches the channel, everybody who helps make the channel what it is today. And I suppose, in a weird way, the crazy landlords who say, no, you can't make the modifications unless you pay us more money. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Bash the notification bell. Support us through Patreon. That would be really helpful. Also send us a coffee through Ko-fi, or visit our swag store. There are links below. Thanks everyone. I'll see you soon. Keep evolving.